Okie dokies, alright jokies, let's get started. So today we're doing your favorite subject. We are going to be getting rid of decimals and fractions. I'm going to be teaching you a couple tricks to get rid of decimals, and then a couple tricks to get rid of fractions. So we're starting off with this nastiness. If I was to solve this normally, I'm going to end up having to divide by fractions, add fractions, subtract I'm going to have to divide by decimals. I'm going to have to add, subtract, divide. It's not going to be very pretty. We can do that here just to show you. And then I'll show you the trick to make your life a little easier. So, first things first, I need to get my x's alone, so I'm going to move my 1. Remember what I always tell you guys, move the smaller of the two. So I don't want to move 2.2 because it's bigger than 1, so I'm going to move 1. Subtract 1 from both sides, and it was 0.04x equals, so I'm going to do 2.2 subtract 1. So this is kind of like I have 2 cups, 0.2, so like a fifth. So I have like 2 cups and the fifth cup. And then I'm going to subtract a cup, which leaves me with just 1.2 cups. Okay? Then the next step I'm going to do is my very last step that I always do, which is division. So we're going to divide everything by 0.04. Now I am not a genius with this, so we are going to use a calculator for all of you Among Us fans. I spend way too much time on that. Okay, calculator. As I like to say, your calculator is only as smart as you are. So if you don't know how to input it, neither does it. So what you're going to do is you're going to do 1.2 and divide it by 0.04. And that comes out to be 30. So the answer comes out to be quite nice. Everything leading up to it, though, not nice. So let me show you the easier way to do this. So we're going to move that off to the side. We're going to rewrite this. Okay, I'm sure at some point you had a teacher that taught you place values, and I bet you didn't know why, because who needs to know place values, right? If you recall, this is the 1 spot. This is a 10th spot. 100th spot. Now, if you were like me in elementary school, that made absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. And I didn't like it. Well, let me teach you why we do that in elementary school, all for this one particular moment. Let me draw this out really fast. This is also a 1 spot and a 10th spot. Okay, the reason we teach you this has a really fun meaning. If I take 0.04 and I multiply it by 10, 10th spot here, I'm going to end up with 0.4, because anything multiplied by 10 simply moves the decimal back 1. Now, I've taken my 4 from the 100th spot to the 10th spot. Nice and easy like that. What happens if I multiply by 100? 0.04 times 100. So the fun trick I like to do is count the number of zeros you have. So in this case, I have 1 0, 2 zeros. So here I move back 1 spot. Here, because I have 2 zeros, I'm going to move back once, twice. Which gets me 4. And like that, my decimal is gone. That's the reason that you learn the place values. This number, in order to get rid of the decimals, needs to be multiplied by, at minimum, 100. Now, I could multiply by 1,000 and make it 40 if I wanted to, because we just keep moving it back and adding a 0 every time we move back. But at minimum, I have to multiply it by 100. Same for here. 2.2, 10th spot. So at minimum, I have to multiply by 10 to get rid of the decimal. So move that back 1, and that gives me 22. Okay, so that's a fun little trick. That can help us solve this. And I'm just going to keep running through all my papers. Okay, let's rewrite that one more time. We have 0.04x plus 1 equals 2.2. In order to get rid of all the decimals, I need to find what at minimum do I need to multiply by. Well, I have a tenth and a hundredth spot, so I know that at minimum this part has to be multiplied by 100, and I know that at minimum this one has to be multiplied by 10. Problem is, the rule of equations is what you do to one side, you have to do to the other. If you don't do that, if you don't do that, you're going to end up with a lopsided equation that is not algebraically correct anymore. So, if this at minimum, marker's falling, needs to be multiplied by 100, then everything gets multiplied by 100, right? So, let's do that. So, we're going to multiply by 100. If I multiply this by 100, it moves back once, twice, and I end up with 4x plus, multiply this by 100, 1 times 100 is 100. And then I'm going to have you answer this one on Nearpod, multiplying 2.2 by 100. What's the answer? The answer is we move back once, twice. Who got 220 as their answer? And like that, all of the decimals are gone. Now we are dealing with some bigger numbers, but much easier than dealing with decimals. So let's solve it like this. Just like we did with the original one, we're going to start with what's right here so I can get all of my units onto this side. So I'm going to get rid of my 100 so I can get all my units on this side. It is a positive, so I'm going to subtract. These become 0, and I'm left with 4x equals, we're going to subtract from 220 minus 100, which comes out to be 120. Okay, and then my very last step, as always, is to divide by my number of x's. I have 4 x's currently. I only need 1 x, so we divide by 4. I have a single x, which equals 120 divided by 4, which you might not be able to do in your head. I'll do it on the calculator first, and then I will show you a fun trick to do it in your head. The answer is 30. Okay? So keep that in mind. Here's the fun trick. Pretend the 0 isn't there. What's 12 divided by 4? Now add the 0. And you get 30. 12 divided by 4 is 3. Add 0, 30. So whether you do it on the calculator or in your head, it all equals 30. Okay, so that's a fun trick to get rid of decimals. I know I'm running a little long, but now that we understand the principle of it, it's very easy to do one. That is fractions. So, same principle applies, we're just not going to be in powers of 10 anymore. So let's say I have 1/2 x plus 3 over 4 equals 2. Okay, now you're looking at this going, oh my god, I can't do that. You can do it, it's just going to take a little bit of finagling. Same principle, I'm going to multiply everything here by something. In this case, it's not a power of 10 because I'm dealing with fractions. What it is I'm going to multiply by a common denominator. Okay? We are looking for a common denominator between these two, right? So if, let's say, you have to add 1/2 and 3/4. Right? When you were in elementary school, this would mean that you'd have to find a common denominator between 2 and 4. So what's their common denominator? Okay, so you might have said 8. But you might have also said 4. If you said 4, you were correct. If you said 8, it will work. It's just a little bit of an overkill. I could make both of these 8, so that would make, I'd have to multiply top and bottom by 4 in this case, so I'd have 4 over 8, and then I'd have to multiply by 2 in this case, so I'd have 6 over 8. That would work, but 2 and 4 are, 2 goes into 4. Okay, so I could just make 2, 4 and not have to deal with this guy at all, which would put me at, I need to multiply everything by 2 over here. Boom, common denominator found. Okay, so same thing up here. The common denominator between 2 and 4 is 4. Since I know the common denominator should be 4, I'm going to multiply everything by 4. And that's how these ones work. Find a common denominator and then multiply everything by that common denominator. So that gets multiplied by 4, that gets multiplied by 4, and that gets multiplied by 4. Now here's the fun part. Because of algebra, I have to multiply everything by 4, but because I'm dealing with fractions, what I'm trying to achieve is I'm trying to achieve a big one. Big but 1, right? If I divide 4 by 4, what do I get? Hopefully you said I get 1, right? I'm trying to achieve a 1 or bigger, okay? So for instance, if I multiply the top 4 times 1, which is 4, 4 divided by 2 is what? 2, right? So that's bigger than 1, and it's no longer a fraction. 2x, okay? 4 divided by 4, or 4 times 3 is 12. Divided by 4 is, hopefully you said 3. Again, bigger than 1, that was my goal. 1 or larger. 2 times 4 is 8. And like that, everything's gone. Right? My goal is to find a common denominator. So basically what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to have everything be divisible by the number under it. If you don't remember what to be divisible means, it means I have to be able to divide it evenly, right? I could have multiplied everything by 2. But if I had multiplied everything by 2, only this guy would have gone away, because I would have been 2 times 1. 2 divided by 2 is 1. But 2 times 3 is 6. Does 4 go into 6 evenly? No, it doesn't. So 2 wouldn't have worked, right? 3 wouldn't have worked as well, because 3 times 1 is 3. 3 does not go into 2 evenly. 3 times 3 is 9. 4 does not go into 9 evenly, so that's a problem. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get rid of the bottoms by multiplying something by the top. So in this case, 2 goes into 4, so that works perfectly. 4 goes into 4, so yay, and that one didn't have a fraction on the bottom. Voila! And just like this is super nice to solve. Well, it's not, because I didn't do it over, so it ends up being a decimal anyway. But pay no attention to that. Whoopsies. That is the nice little trick to get rid of all of your fractions. If this doesn't make sense to you, please come ask me questions or go look it up online. It's a really great trick. Between this one and the decimal trick, you should never have to deal with decimals or fractions again in your life. Please ask me questions if you're confused on any of this. This one's a hard one. This one typically gets picked up easier. So if you have trouble with fractions or decimal ones, let me know. And with that, have a good day.